But if you can maybe
Sure,
explain this model, because it's
Well,
fascinating.
this actually comes from the work we do with the human element, and Ethan, shared it. Ethan Schutz shared it with us a number of months ago, and he shares it. We share it within the human element, actually practitioner work that we do. So there's really a couple different ways you look. Well, you don't look at a couple of. This is the way we look at this in terms of the choices that we make. So this is about, when we talk about the radical collaboration skills of self-accountability, self-awareness, this really kind of helps to encapsulate where choices we're left with and maybe why we make some of our choices, right? So if this is you, right, you're sitting in your chair, goes back to you have what you're aware of, right, and what you're not aware of, especially when you're dealing with me, right? So let's say that you and I are in a dynamic where one of the ways that you may communicate with me, because of you were saying earlier, you're very empathic, you may worry about what you might hurt my feelings, you might be offensive, but that's not your intent, right? But you will, sometimes use this methodology of communicating with me, not being open, direct, because you're worrying about how I might think about you, or whether you're going to hurt my feelings, kind of stuff. And so this, I don't know, what does it feel like when you're in that space? Inauthentic, but how much energy are you?
Inefficient.
It's really exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that people do, another choice that we have, is I can simply withhold, or you can withhold what you're feeling towards me. And even, like you and I we've known each other for 3 years, and there are times where you finally share something, and it's like, thank you. I just needed to know that. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. We work through that stuff, and that's part of why we're good friends, is because we can be really open and honest. But in organizations, what happens is you got someone who withhold what they're feeling in a meeting, and their blood pressure goes up. It creates stress for them. And again, let's try to create a world where we're not living stressfully, right? So this idea of being open and honest, and it's not, you're choosing, you can choose to be open and honest with me. And it's not like the dynamic where you can say to me, hey, Scott, can I be honest with you? It's like what you haven't been. It's really just really being authentic, which is, I think, one of your greatest strengths. But the reasons why people aren't open and honest is for you, it might be, or for me, is can I cope with how you're going to respond to me? Or can you cope with how I'm going to respond to you? And that's really what holds us back, because you might be afraid of how I might see you as being, insignificant or not liked, or you might feel rejected. And those are all those fears that we talk about when we get into the human element work. So I think a lot of the reason why we're making the choices that we make to either be going the circuitous path or withhold is it's just easier. But yet, when I'm here, it might be easy to execute, but it might be harder to hold on to. Where this, it might be harder to let go, but it's easier to cope. Because if you're truly open and honest with the intent to make things better, my brain's going to pick up on that intent, and I'm going to work towards that. So what we try to do in this kind of a framework is increase your level of awareness and recognize too what is holding you back, from being open and honest. But I know for me, this is a great way to kind of create a culture of openness, but also making sure that you're doing it in a way that you're accountable for your choices and you're aware of what's holding you back or why you're communicating the way you're communicating. But a fun tool.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful, because this is really the path of fulfillment, the straight, direct path of being open and honest.
Yeah.
Like when I take this path, I feel so good about it.
Yeah.
When I'm in a state of withholding, it's just a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just like really like you think the opportunity is going to come around again for you to be open and honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
And it might fall flat. I mean, again, you can be open and honest with me. I might get defensive, but this is where you have to get into curiosity mode, right? Rather than getting furious, like, oh, I shouldn't have said it. It's like, wait. I think I was sharing with you earlier, it's like a lot of times when someone is disagreeing or maybe getting offended by something I said, I'm going to ask them, it's like, are you being offended what I said, or are you being offended by how you're interpreting what I said? And not to now again, if I'm being true and authentic and trying to speak my truth, and they take offense to that, I want to understand what is it about it, because it's never my intent, but that's not about it. It's about the impact. So I want to understand, did they hear me correctly, or did you hear me correctly, or did I hear you correctly? Because this is where we get into those tools of radical collaboration, of first, truth first, and things like that. But this becomes a whole lot easier to navigate. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So where this one's interrupted, this one is corrupted, if you will. And this is why making it open and honest just let you travel a lot lighter. So
Totally.
have you found this to work for you in that?
Oh yeah, incredibly. Having this awareness, knowing that you can get caught up in this here and people spend a lot of time there.
This is your brain basically trying to keep you safe, right?
Yeah.
Doing it this way or this way. And then what you make up about what it might say because of the level of awareness. And it could be because when you were honest with somebody 5 years ago, you got yelled at. So your brain's like, don't go there. So again, really kind of having the capacity to recognize it's not about you or me. There's just a dynamic that you and I need to work through. And that's a pretty good place to be, starting there.
And what I feel is like the entry point also here is the collaborative intent. If I think about like my long-term relationship with you, to have a lifelong friendship with you is most important.
Right.
Or other people in my life that I know that I have a lifelong relationship
Absolutely.
with because of their family relationship to me.
Right.
Like it's a turning towards them rather than turning against them or away from them. Withholding is a little bit turning away from them. This is just like wasting time.
Right.
But here it's really creating an authentic relationship exchange.
Yeah, and think about that's what we're trying to build in organizations, what we're trying to build in our community, and our world needs to be more of this, less of this, less of this. The dividends are huge.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing this one up.
Thanks for sharing.